Joseph Lloyd, and he is filming one of his shambolic shuffles. And we're better to start than the Trying for Claims. So we're going to wander around, watch him do his work, and we'll have a look at some of the cars. So there we have Mr. Lloyd working his magic on the Trying for Claims. So that's the thing about this show. If you've got anything Morris, Austin, MG, you name it, obviously Rover, well, this is the show to attend. It was held last year, but obviously due to COVID restrictions, it was far more restrictive than this year. This year is absolutely rammed. I can see Marinas, I can see Itals, I can see TR7s, TR8s, MGBs, and even some interesting vehicles as well, like the Marina Coupes. There's also some vans over there, pickups, fire engines, and all manner of things. So you're going to have to bear with me because I'm not quite as well versed as Joseph on these types of cars. But they are cars that take me back to my childhood. And as Joseph mentioned as we entered, when you come to an event like this, you kind of forget the other manufacturers and think, is this all there was? Because everything is of that era. Look at that, the British Leyland sign on the steering wheel. And yes, no headrests. Period colours left, right and centre as well. Creams, greens, blues, tans. And obviously oranges as well. I do like that TC variant. And that's the thing, these cars are all made relatively the same, just slight tweaks, but each one looks slightly different at the front. So, I do like these fastback style ones. It's amazing the love for such a, I suppose it's a British institution when you look at it. All these cars, everybody within the last, say, I suppose, 80, 90 years can relate to something. Rover, MG, Austin, British Leyland, etc. Obviously, Triumph and things as well. So this is the first time I've been to the British Motor Museum as well, so that's an adventure in itself. But look at all the love, even the t-shirt there, British Leyland 50 years. Convertible Marina Coupe. And a TC as well at that. What a colour. Keep watching out for things like the shorts today because we have filmed quite a few on the way. There's also stuff from Goodwood coming as well, which is the complete opposite end of the scale, all the latest EVs. Saying that, in the British Motor Museum, Joseph was pointing out to me some electrical cars. I can't remember what it was. There's a certain van in there. It was like a 1985 van and it was fully electric and it had a hinged rear door. And the name escapes me. Apologies. The thing about these cars is they've all got their own story. I needed a car for work as a building surveyor. And that was 1977. Well, I was born in 76 and I'm 44. 45 in June. So that makes that 46 years old. Look, vinyl roofs. Thanks for the thumbs up and thanks for joining in. If you know anyone that enjoys this kind of thing, please share. Also, if you see me walking around the show, say hello. And the same goes for Joseph. I've arrived with him today in the Rover. It's crazy to think how many Marines are actually still surviving. because the sad thing is, on the way to the event, when we were coming up the hill, we ended up sat in traffic for about 2 hours. And the sad fact was, at least 5 of the vehicles in the queue overheated, coolant issues. There was coolant all over the road. But that's the challenge with having a classic car of any age. I've had the same with the Mark II Golf many times. Hopefully when it's been rebuilt, that'll be over. So a Triumph 2.5, Mark II. You can't talk when one of those goes past, you just listen to the burble. It's not just the classics and the retros either. Over here, you've got Montegos, Maestros, vans and cars, turbos, diesels, and everything in between. Slowly saunter around and see what there is. And they're not all standard either. You've got some race prep ones. I would be talking more, but I think a lot of these cars speak for themselves. I mean, the Triumph Stag, everyone can relate to a Triumph Stag. This is the RV8. It's another one of those cars that, from my childhood, actually, some of my friends had these. How they insured them, I'll never know. In retrospect, they probably weren't. TR6s. And the Triumph GT6, the Mark III. Oh, beautiful colour. Now I'd assume it's the original paint, but in all honesty, it looks like it's been restored. That's the other thing about the cars here. A lot of these are used on a daily basis, so you will see everything from perfection cars such as Concours, through to Rat, through to what you class loved and tatty. But I suppose that's what appeals to everybody. A lot of people go to a show for concours, but other people will go to, say, events like Festival of the Unexceptional, or I think that's what it's called, to see not necessarily the mundane, but the things that nobody really thought to collect, and in today's world are rarer than some of the supercars. I mean, look at all these TR7s and TR8s. This was a car that always appealed to me. Sporty little two-seater number, and well, Tim Snowden owned one, and he said it was virtually two cars, and he found fish and chip papers built into the body, and that just showed how some of these were built. Despite that, there was a lot of love for them, and that's the thing. It's like old TVRs. Where'd you start with those? Built in Blackpool, and well, it's amazing how far they've evolved. Speaking of TVR, it's not actually dead either. More on that when we find out more. Let's have a wander around. There is a fair few TR7s here. Some interlopers up there, an RCZ. Ooh, a model. Look at that. There we go. See, there we go. You just heard it in the background. Are you cooling down? And that's what we've seen with a lot of these vehicles in the queue today. A lot of them have overheated, even Rovers. The Rover 45 that we're in with Joseph, we had to keep turning the engine off periodically, just avoid that kind of, I suppose, doubt, because he had a new thermostat housing fitted, but still seems to be using a little bit of coolant. Nevertheless, it got us here, and it's the first time I've properly heard it and travelled in it. Fantastic car. Very refined and a great drive as well. So we've got some early Range Rovers here. 50 plus 1 years. My favourite Range Rover has to be the first generation. I just love the circular lights on it. So, the Austin Allegro. I think everybody can relate to this. So these are the rather late ones, as you can tell, due to the grills. My word. That's an interesting plate. So Regent 1300. Whoa. Seem to have walked into a police collection here. I'm going to make my way through the MG stuff. I've got some Metros here. And GTI 16 valves, that's a late one. Abandon Plat to the left of me as well. You can tell by the trim and the two-tone paint. The chrome on the front. I forgot they did a GTI one. This is an early one. One of my exes had one of these. And it never used to start. And she was told to rock it in gear with the start motor on. And her mother came out and started rocking it side to side. I've never laughed so much. And neither did her husband. So, MG Metros as well. So, Rover Metros, Austin Metros. And that's it. There were at least 3 manufacturers of the Metro. The last being Rover. Retro AA badge as well, like the one on the Mark II Golf. Another GT coming in as well. Now it's time for the Montego. My word. I do like the Montego. The sad thing is, when I was younger, most of the ones I saw were pretty rotten. But these have been well maintained. You've still got things like the stripes, and the later ones, because they've got the white front indicators as well. You can tell that when they started this, everybody was trying to park in the same kind of cars, but it looks like friends have appeared and things have got a bit broken up. So we've got like a 600 there and an 800 there and a Metro here. And back into Metros. Bit of a difference. Twin cam 16 valve engine, and with the stickers on the side of the car, I think it's probably not standard either. Maestro Turbo. Oh, now the Maestro Turbo, that was the one that everybody wanted when I was younger. Something like 2-litre injection, 16 valve turbocharged, and extremely rapid, like really quick. And I think some of them had digital clusters as well. That one does not. Maestro Advantage, EFI. Welsh too. That's the other thing about this. People come from far and wide. Montego 2-litre Mayfair. And a Maestro again. Let's have a look at the front. We've got land crabs and maxis and all types of things around here. Wolsleys. That's it. And unlike Goodwood, they're all kind of next to each other, so I can just keep trolling for miles and miles and miles. So, Rover 800s. And then the 600, a bit like the one that Joseph had. And he also spoke to someone who had a 600 like his, and his driver's side electric window had failed as well. Austin 1800. Look at this. Exquisite. Oh. If when you've watched this you want some more detail, watch Joseph's video on Lloyd Vehicle Consulting, because he really does know his onions. I just know what I like from this era. Let's move to Mini. Some really early Minis here. Be interesting to see if there's a Mini Cooper with the plastic windows. Bet Sam was here to watch this. He's got a nice 1275 which has been restored. Okay. It's definitely an early one. Just trying to think if that is glass or not. You can really tell the early ones by the fact that the front window slid. Seem to have walked into some kind of rally cars as well. More Austins. This is really testing my knowledge of cars, I tell you. Yes, I know it's an interloper. But when it's an interloper that looks like a Mark 1 Golf GTI, then sorry, it has to get a bit of recognition on my channel. It's even got an Audi Quattro bonnet. This is far from standard. I'd be surprised if it's even running a 1.8. I reckon it's probably running something like a 2-litre ABF. BR Motorsports says it all. It's got full roll cage, an Audi Quattro bonnet, so it could be anything. 20519 GTI and similar spec to this, and a Mark II. Anyway, back to the BMC stuff. If I do that again, just shout. That's the thing, there's so much to see at an event like this. We even saw a Mark III Cortina driving in as well. Austin Cambridge, and the Morris Oxford. There's Morris Oxford in Silverdale that we sometimes go to events with. Austin Cambridge and a Wolseley 1660. And then Riley's as well. A Riley Kestrel, I think we saw that when we were coming in. Two-seater plane. And somebody's smoking the green. Now, the Austin Max C1750. We had one of these and we got it resprayed in our double garage. And despite the double garage not being the most airtight or dust-free environment, it actually came out very, very well. I used to love the Maxi. There's just something about the design. I don't know if it was the styling of the rear lights. I mean, essentially, they're a bit like the Mercedes ones with a cut-off and triangular shaping. But also the additions of the chrome trim around the outside and lashings of, I don't know if it's real wood or fake wood or whatever, on the trim. And also the single headlamp as well. It kind of took, I suppose it's like an early sports car look, and put it on something that was essentially a family car. Oops, oil leak. More TR7s, MGBs, and Allegros. I think there's an Austin Princess over there. Set over there. Now, we used to have a lot of Princesses back in the day. They weren't actually our cars, but they were funeral cars. So they were hearses and limousines. And they were very elegant and perfect for the job, to be honest. Because I don't know if any of you know that that's actually what one of my former careers was. My mother used to be a funeral director. Quirk's Funeral Services of Silverdale, formerly the Isle of Man. So the Princesses and Ambassadors suited that. We never had our own cars, but when we did, we used a company from Grange, so Grange over Sands, and they used to bring the limousines, and they just used to have big posh chrome bumpers, luxurious trims inside the front and the rear. Obviously there was only 3 seats in the hearse, but the limousines were just massive and ideal for that kind of job. And that was it. When my granddad used to walk into the pub, he'd walk in and say, "Aye, you'll need about 6'2". And he was referring to people that were typically smoking and stood by the bar. And obviously, they designed coffin size. Bit of a dark joke there. But, you know, that's how people cope with it. So, Wolseley 6. Going off on obscure tangents left, right and centre today, but I suppose that's what happens when you walk around a load of classic cars. They invoke memory and things that are stuck in your mind that you think, actually, I forget that. And then you see that car and bing! Oh dear, I've actually been in hundreds of those and just forgotten. Thank you for joining me. I'm at the BMC Leyland Show in case you've just joined us. I'm also with Lloyd Vehicle Consulting, so he's wandering around here filming too. We're in the 45 V6 and the car park's, in a word, as impressive as most of the exhibition cars. So this is the British Motor Museum at Gaydon. There's the Rover 75s here as well. I do like a 75, I think it's very elegant. Early Rover there. I've got a feeling, I don't know if they're P6s or not. I'll probably get this wrong. Apologies, my knowledge isn't particularly great on Rovers. Oh, some early Minis, but that is a heavily modified early Mini. That's a bit like Sam's, to be honest, except it's got half roll cage. 1275 GT, centre exit exhaust and a ragtop as well. Yeah, fantastic. Sam's has actually got pink anodised grille on as well. Stand out from the crowd. So, more Maxis. And looks like we're into the proper Rover section now. Rover 75s then. ZRZTs, it's a 180 plus. There's a hell of a lot of love for the Rover brand. And you'll see every modification under the sun. Arches, first time I've seen that. There's a very dark side Rover badge as well. Raven black. New wing on this one by the side. No, it's actually a new front, if anything. Interesting. States as well. So what have we got here? Innocenti, maybe? See, this is where my knowledge falls down a bit. Let's have a look at the back. No, that's equally as confusing. Innocenti 950. Never seen one of those ever before. Let's have a look around it. Oh, chrome handbrake. Love that. Very simple. It looks partly Italian, but partly British, especially the digits on the dials. Be interesting to know a little more about that. You'll have to do some research. I've got Rover 75. Some Triumphs up there. There's a lot of, oh, I've just spotted something. Thank you for the thumbs up, and thank you for sharing. If you know anyone that likes the BMC stuff, please shout. Yes, I have seen the vehicles with the orange grills, and I just can't hold off anymore. They're over BRMs. These are fantastic. I'd love to drive one of these. All the same colour, all with the orange grille. One here with a matte bonnet. This has to be the biggest collection of BRMs ever. Oh my word, an electric scooter. So there you go, the BRM. Fantastic. I'd love to drive one, like I said. I don't know much about the engines, I don't know much about anything. I know they're obviously not particularly standard, they've got bigger engines and they're definitely more modified. And the telltale sign is always the orange. I suppose it's like air dam at the front. Late Mini Coopers as well, so... I loaded one of these onto a ferry years and years ago when I used to work for Belfast Freight, and it had white dials and a 1.3 injection engine. So let's see which ones these are. So Cooper Sport, yeah, white dials. That one's actually got, oh my word, got the pressure gauges and dials. Because when we followed one in, this is a 500, so this is one of the really late ones. Cooper Classic. It's only got one dial, but some of the white dials. When I drove it, it's amazing how fast the 1.3 injection was. And one of the modifications that people do now is stick Metro engines in them, or that's what it was. I suppose the challenge is, look, the Cooper Sport 500 register. If you got one of those, it's for your register. But yeah, when I drove it, oh my word, because it's got no power steering and that kind of thing, it's just heavy steering, really great feel. And those wide wheels as well. It cornered like it was on rails, and I was like booting this thing round Heysham Harbour. Driving within rules round Heysham Harbour. And oh, the way it handled. That's an interesting wheel to have on a Morris Minor. Almost looks Porsche. Thank you for the thumbs up, and thank you for continuing to watch. There's lots more to come. We'll cut this off at around 30 minutes, so it doesn't take too long, but we'll come back later. Morris Minor with a trailer here as well, which equates to half a Morris Minor. So there we are, we've got some Triumphs. We'll walk up to those and then finish this video. If you've got anything that you want me to feature today, ooh, I've never seen a Minor like that. Actually, the audience is now increasing, so we may stay on a little longer. What a week it's been. Goodwood last week. BMC today, and then SMMT on Tuesday, and then it's back for a well-earned rest. Annabelle's actually at home today. Well, not home. The premiere in, uploading all the content that we filmed at Goodwood. But you can't come all the way to here with Mr. Joseph Lloyd and not visit the BMC. So we're in the Triumphs now. So we've got 60s. 7s, seeing a trend here, 8s, and everything in between. And look, the thing I love about these is they're driven. You can't have a car like this and stick it in a garage. I hate it. That's why Dorothy is driven every week. Thank you for the thumbs up. Glad that you're enjoying our walk around. We'll have a proper look around the British Motor Museum after. If the live allows me, that's how I'll do it. See what I mean? That's actually the car park. So the car park's essentially a show as well now. What I'll do later is come back live from the car park so we can see what's in there, because there'll be some really rare things that haven't had a chance to register. I mean, most of the guys at the events here and gals do spot something rare and kind of direct it to the exhibition centre, but some do sometimes sneak through. For example, I was in the British Motor Museum before and I saw for the first time ever the MG XC, which was a concept. Thank you for the thumbs up. It was developed with Honda. You can kind of tell because I was talking about design language of the NSX, and then I suddenly realised, oh, right, that makes sense. And Joseph confirmed that, yeah, that is exactly what happened. Rover were working with Honda, as we know that things like the Civic use the D series, as did some of the early Rovers as well. So there you go, the British Motor Museum and a walk around the BMC show. If you'd like me to cover anything later, please comment on any of the Rovery videos and I'll have a look if I can take them in. But I think we're going to have to finish on the Planet Auto Edition MGF in orange there. What a car to finish on. An LE 500 at that as well. Ooh, beautiful example. V8's just arrived in the car park. Look at the plate as well, 500 MG. Yeah, beautiful example. And in Planet Auto Orange. Thanks for joining me, and I'll come back later. Watch out for a live from the actual museum. Thanks guys, and have